And we are back. February marks Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, serving as a reminder of a vital initiative dedicated to enlightening teenagers, their peers, parents, educators of the community on the prevalence and the ramifications of dating violence among adolescents. Dating teen violence, well, I should say, encompasses various forms of abuse. It includes physical violence, emotional, verbal mistreatment, sexual assault, and even controlling behavior. Joining me now, we've got the Children's Village Director of Family Initiatives at the Inwood House, Ed Reyes, and Assistant Director of the Comprehensive Adolescent Pregnancy Division, or I should say Prevention Program, Yehudis Lang, and we thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, when we talk about teen dating and teen dating violence, let's get into how big is it, I should say. Let's start there.
So teen dating violence is more prevalent than people are actually aware of. So what we know is that in New York, 1 out of 3 teens under 18 will experience some form of teen dating violence. Now, that doesn't mean always sexual or physical violence, although we do know that 19% of teenagers across the United States experience that kind of violence. We also include emotional and psychological violence as well, and what we know is that 50% of teens experience a form of psychological abuse before the age of 18.
That's a lot. And that's a lot for a young
Yes.
person to really have to go through. Given the fact of that, what kind of help is available when you have a situation like that out there?
Well, we can talk about our agency first. So at Children's Village, we utilize a multifaceted approach to this particular problem. We have various programs set up in place that can actually tackle these things, both on a high school level and also on a family level as well. So some of these programs, of course, are Teen Choice, which Yehudis is currently the assistant director of, where they go into the high school setting. They work in and out of different classroom settings, giving all types of information regarding teen dating violence, healthy relationships, and everything in the entire spectrum of how to recognize a healthy relationship versus an unhealthy one, and when can you see when it starts to turn abusive.
Yeah. Sometimes people when it comes to our teens, they can be very silent, when it comes to really disclosing information. What are you finding amongst young people right now when it comes to dating and this whole situation? Are they more vocal about what they're going through from from relationship news to even the violence?
So what we do know is that the more awareness that we bring, the more likely students are going to come up and talk about it. So whether that's coming from home or at school, bringing that awareness into the classroom allows for students to then think about their relationship and go, oh, hey, I'm experiencing that. That's a sign of an unhealthy relationship. And then they're coming into our office, they're coming and approaching our facilitators after a lesson and saying, hey, I didn't know that about consent. Hey, I didn't know that that would be considered an unhealthy relationship sign. What could I do to help? The more awareness and the more we talk about it, the more I find that students are willing to talk about it and go for help when necessary.
Yeah. And so when a person experiences abuse, walk us through it. Say, for instance, God forbid, it's a loved one connected to me, and now I may not have that reach, but I know that you do because that's what y'all do. So walk me through. I come to your doors. I say, hey, I've got this. Where do we go from here?
So the first thing we immediately do is try to make that person feel comfortable in a particular setting where they know it's going to be 100% confidential when we're discussing certain things. Now, as mandated reporters, there are certain things that we do have to disclose to protect the life of an individual and perhaps someone else. But we're going to try to control the setting so that the person feels comfortable enough to want to share what's happening. Because Yehudis just mentioned before that there are many different levels and different stages to the abuse. We call it the relationship spectrum. So if everything's in the healthy side, then you're immediately going to enjoy the benefits of what it is to be in a communicative relationship, in a relationship where people feel like they're equal partners, in a relationship where they feel that my alone time, my personal time is mine, and when we're together, and they know how to differentiate the two. Then, of course, when you start going over into the unhealthy side, that's when you start to see what we call the warning signs, the red flags. We'll have that discussion with that individual, and usually they're the ones who are coming to us and immediately going straight to the red flags.
Right.
Things like My partner keeps asking me for my passwords on my social media accounts. My partner keeps blowing up my phone every 15 minutes and asking me, where am I, what am I doing, and who am I with? And those just two or three of the many different types of red flags that you'll encounter in a relationship. Then, of course, the part that we never want to hear, but unfortunately it's a reality, is when it starts to get abusive, when it becomes physical, when it becomes mentally and emotionally abusive, the gaslighting, the deflection, telling a person that they're worth less than what they actually are, so that they become dependent on that partner. And those are just some at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to relationship abuse.
Yeah, Yehudis, what are some of the warning signs that maybe we, the public, should be paying attention to in the lives of our young people that know that maybe they're going through something here?
Yeah, so some of the warning signs would be controlling behaviors, aggressive or short-tempered behaviors, making fun of you, whether that's in public or in private, demanding access to somebody's social media, demanding that they don't see friends and family, kind of isolating them and keeping them away from their peers, along with physical abuse and sexual abuse. But it's important to note that those warning signs usually aren't going to be the first time somebody physically abuses you, they're going to hit you. It's more likely that you're going to get in an argument and you're going to say, I would like to walk away, and they grab you back. That would be a warning sign that they're not respecting your boundary and they're grabbing you and they're not going to stop.
Right. You talk about the relationship spectrum, right? And for those people who may not be familiar with it, let's share with our viewers a little bit about the relationship spectrum.
So as I mentioned before, everything starts out on the healthy side. We call that the honeymoon phase. That's when everything's golden, everything's beautiful. You can't breathe without, being near each other.
That's called new relationship.
Exactly.
Right.
So everything looks great. And everybody's feeling good. Even everybody on the outside looking in is congratulating you, and they see the glow on your face, and everything's wonderful. Your partner can't do anything wrong, and likewise. Then, instead of nurturing that type of relationship, instead of feeding into it, instead of highlighting the good parts and reinforcing those good parts, sometimes people tend to start to drift off into the realm of, well, I'm in this relationship, so I'm owed a couple of things, so I can behave a certain way. I can get away with a few things. And that's on the low side, because behaviors like that can normally be corrected if two people actually have a communicative relationship, a relationship where they feel free to talk about uncomfortable topics. Sometimes it turns the other way around, where one partner just doesn't want to speak up for fear of upsetting or destabilizing that relationship because of whatever perceived dependency might be present. Then, of course, in that spectrum, you got the green light, as you would see as traffic light. It starts to go into the yellow, right? Look at what's happening, what's going on here. Now I'm seeing some controlling behavior. I'm starting to see making fun of me when I'm really not in the mood for it. A lot of the things that Yehudis already mentioned. The dangerous part is when it goes from that green to the red, and we call those red flags for a reason. Red means stop. This should not be happening in a relationship. The physical abuse, the emotional abuse, the mental abuse. A lot of people don't even mention religious abuse and even financial abuse. You can't practice your religion because this is the one I belong to, or maybe it's a Sunday. Sundays for me, you might want to go to church. We'll stop going to church because I want you to hang out with me. So it starts to affect and bleed into all aspects of your family life, of your life with your friends, because now all of a sudden, because I'm controlling this relationship and I'm making you feel like you have to be with me, you're not allowed to hang out with your friends. And it's not so much them being allowed to hang out with their friends, it's more about not granting them access to their friends who may be trying to get them out of that bad relationships because they're the ones seeing the red signs before you do.
Right. That's a lot to consider.
Yes.
So when we have our young people right now and that conversation comes about, really steering them from from green flag, yellow flag, red flag, having that conversation, say, you know what, honey, you're headed for a bad place. What's that conversation like? Are they receptive to hearing about their relationship? Because we do know something about teenagers. They think they know it all.
Yes, but I've actually found that they're receptive and they're they're interested to hear it. Oftentimes they're surprised and they're not aware that those might be those yellow flags. So giving some examples where it's not that your partner's yelling at you and telling you you can't go see your family, it's you're coming back from seeing your family and they start saying things like, you left me alone all day, I was upset, I'm sad, now I'm upset, you need to do something to make me feel better. And then the next time you're not going to go see your family because you're going to remember what it caused. So when we bring up something like that and say, hey, you know, that's not okay, oftentimes they are surprised. Along with that, when we talk about consent in the classroom, a lot of times the teenagers are surprised to even hear that a relationship doesn't equal consent. They think that they automatically are entitled to touch their partner, kiss their partner, demand certain things from their partner. And once it's brought up and we explain to them that that's not what consent is about, they take a moment, they sometimes think, and they oftentimes come to us and say, oh, hey, you know what, this is occurring. How do I either correct myself if they are the aggressor, or how can I help my partner, or what should I do because I might be the victim?
Right. Entitlement is really huge, I think. And I think that's a big challenge that a lot of teen relationships face is entitlement. What are you seeing behind closed doors? Are you seeing entitlement as being huge?
Well, definitely, especially on a social media level,
Right.
where they feel like you owe them the passwords to all your social media accounts. We're together. You don't have anything to hide. Why is it that you don't want to give me access? And it's never been about getting access to pretty much whatever it is that they're engaged in. It's being able to feel like I can control the situation and I can control the narrative of this relationship, especially if even I know, because most abusers are completely aware of the type of tactics that they're utilizing to demean their partners.
Right.
It's that controlling behavior is prevalent and it's going to be very, very heavy. Now, unfortunately, in that particular realm, when it comes to entitlement, there's this sense of awareness where people feel like if I'm in a relationship, then there are certain things that happen in a relationship. My friends talk about it all the time at the lunchroom table. Even with adults, my friends talk about it all the time, you know, by the water machine. You know, there are certain things that you tolerate and there are certain things that you deal with in a relationship. That's just how it goes. But you don't have to go through that. That's one of the reasons why we're here, because no one should ever feel like they have to go with whatever society says in terms of things that you perceive or think you owe a partner. It has to be an equal, loving, and giving relationship, 50-50.
So if there's a young person out there watching right now and they hear a little bit about these flags, maybe you just really weld something up inside of them to say, hey, you know what, I need to really talk about this. I really need to get some help on this. What do they do?
So they could go to loveisrespect.org, and it's a website that will help them create a safety plan. I believe there is a quiz that they could take to test to see if their relationship is unhealthy or healthy or perhaps abusive. They should go talk to somebody in their school. Think who in their life is a trusted adult. And when they create that safety plan online, it will actually allow for them to think who could they go to if they're in a situation they need to get out of immediately, who could they turn to if it's not pressing but they need to talk about it.
So for you as an agency, this work is definitely touching you to, continue to impact young people. Talk to me about that impact. What are you seeing by way of having this resource available, doing a lot of this, Teen Dating Awareness Month and carrying the message about? What's it like for you?
I've enjoyed every step of the way of my career when it comes to talking about healthy relationships. I come from a very loving home. I come from a home where, if something went down, it wasn't all about yelling or punishment. It was about sitting down, talking about what happened, what are my next steps, how is it that I'm going to resolve this situation and move that forward. It's a lesson that I pass down on my kids, and through connection, through every single student I've ever worked with. It's been a tremendous source of pride for me to be able to do that for not only Teen Choice, but also for Inwood House and the Children's Village, because we share an equal mission. It's all about making sure that our kids are safe and that our kids have a place to go to when they really need someone. And we do that in a variety of ways. We hold tabling events where we highlight certain themes throughout the entire year, and our biggest month happens to be February when we're talking about this very topic. Because when you're a teenager and you're growing up, it's all about identity.
Right.
You know, I'm trying to discover who I am, and sometimes they get into relationships to actually figure that out for themselves. Now, in a healthy relationship, two people are learning together. But when one is being manipulative and one is using every tactic in their toolkit to kind of, control the narrative, then that person doesn't get an equal opportunity to actually discover who they are and how they can grow within that relationship, because now they're worried about living their life for someone else. And that's something that we make sure we put out into the atmosphere when we're working with kids, to let them know that you have a voice and you have power.
In your conversation and your interaction with some of the young people, talk to me about this part right here. They may find it to be acceptable behavior, but you know that this is a flag. How much ignorance goes on in teen relationships, and sometimes they just don't know?
There's a lot of ignorance, but there's also a lot of normalizing abusive and unhealthy behavior, especially online. People are posting pictures. Everybody seems happy and fine. So they might see in school two people yelling at each other, but then they see just the highlight reel on social media, and so they think, okay, this is normal. And we do know those who witness a form of teen dating violence are more likely to commit teen dating violence or become a victim of it because of that normalizing. So we break it down to them, we explain it to them, we make it as simple and say a healthy relationship is where two people have equal trust, communication, openness, equality. No one person has control over the other.
And if people need some assistance, what do they do?
Well, as Yehudis mentioned before, there are many organizations that you can reach out to. There's another organization that we also partner with. It's day1.org. They can definitely go there. They specialize in healthy relationships. Our agency put together the Teen Choice Program, which has been around for just over 50 years now. And we've been working inside of high schools, making sure we do it through group therapy, we do it through themed events, and we also do it in small group settings within our own Teen Choice offices, where kids have always had the freedom and the comfort to just come in, sit down. If you need to ball out, but we're gonna work through this, and the most important thing is that you're not alone. We're gonna be with you every step of the way.
How important is that safe space?
That is so important. It is so important also that not only certain kinds of teens think that they could come in and say, hey, I'm experiencing an unhealthy relationship, but all teens, no matter their gender, could experience teen dating violence. And I think that's very important to note. It doesn't matter somebody's gender, they could be a victim of teen dating violence, and it doesn't matter what kind of relationship they're in, they could experience teen dating violence.
Yeah, I know before, I think originally starting out, people just look at it through a heterosexual lens, and now we understand there's so many different components that you could be looking at it. So if you find yourself in the boat, just really get the help and have a conversation. Yeah, so thank you, Ed Yehudis. It's been great having you on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Appreciate that. Thank you for having
yes,
us.
yes. All right, taking a quick break. Guess what? We got more here on the Social Justice Forum. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.